Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. You know what it is. All right, you guys. Peep game, man. Wow. I just want to say happy birthday to the late great Nipsey Hussle. Unfortunately, we lost Nipsey Hussle on March the 31st. And the funny part about it is March the 31st. That's my grandmother's birthday. So yeah. But at the end of the day, when you think about what Nipsey Hussle accomplished at the age of 34 when he passed, it's just amazing. And you hear the stories about the people that knew him and what they say about him. He truly had a good heart. And a lot of people will come on here and say, "Oh, he was a game banger, and he was, like." A lot of people don't understand when it comes to game banging and being from a turf and stuff. It's a lot of different elements to that, because a lot of people make it look like people affiliated with gangs and turfs and shit like me and shit, like just went around like harming people and all that kind of shit, and that's just misconstrued to the fullest. Ain't nothing wrong with having a clique. At the end of the day, when I was like doing my thing, I was out there getting my money. Now, was it legal money? No. But at the end of the day, was I like scheming on people? Was I like, trying to hurt people? Not really. I mean, when I was sitting out there like slinging drugs, when you like 21, 22, you in that age range, you're not thinking about like the destruction that you doing to your own people at the time. But the funny part about me, even when I was out there hustling, when I left Oakland and went somewhere else to another spot, it was funny, most of my customers were non-black, and I enjoyed that. So it was kind of funny that I got out of that element and shit. I got out of it, and I was off and on for a while. Then I stopped like permanently, when I got like in my when I got in my 30s and shit. So I just want to get that out there and shit, because at the end of the day, you got to understand, sometimes the way people are portrayed by the media ain't always what it is. And most of y'all should be smart enough to know by now, we all know who controls the mainstream media. They're gonna put the stories and the images out there that they want you to believe. Let's keep it real. Yeah, it was some parts in Oakland that you couldn't go to unless you knew somebody. Because one, you gotta understand, these dudes is out there getting their money. They don't know who you are. They don't know, what you doing over there. So if you don't know nobody, they gonna think, hey, you a op, you scoping out the block, you scoping out the turf. Basically, you plotting. So of course they gonna approach you and be like, hey man, what you doing? What you doing over here? Who you know over here? See, they don't tell you that perspective, where they make it look like people just walk up on any, anybody, any and everybody. So of course, if they see a dude walking around their neighborhood, he just wandering around and he looking, and then, they ain't never seen you before, they gonna be like, hey man, who you know over here? That's just how the street code works. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off subject and shit, but I just wanted to hit you guys with a little food for thought. Don't always play into what the mainstream, predominantly white controlled media wants you to believe, because we already know how they get down. Their whole existence is based on lying, cheating, and stealing, and putting out images to demonize a certain group of people. Roger Ailes admitted it. His motto was demonize the other, which was a code word for the brother. Just showing you I used to, my rhyme skills, because I did used to write, But anyway, man, getting back to Nipsey Hussle, man. Like I said, one thing I can say, I'm really proud that I had a chance to spend money with him, man, at the Marathon store. As you guys know how I feel about that. shout out to J-Dog, because he's very, passionate about that, because I truly believe in, patronizing the black enterprises, helping my people make money. And and that's something we should never feel guilty about. And like I said, y'all seen the videos. A lot of people was like, man, some of y'all fake. Why didn't y'all go start, shopping at the marathon until after, Nipsey passed? Well, some people, thought process isn't where other people's thought process is. But at the end of the day, the business is still open online. They got, basically they backed up for months in, orders. So, like I said, man, I was real happy, like when I first, went to LA and discovered that store. Shout out to Ben Saucy Bossy, because he told me about it. Because like when we went down there, man, to cover the Mikey Garcia Robert Easter fight, and me and Ben Saucy, we was down there, we was just chilling. And then I remember, I think when we first got to LA, when we set foot in LA, Ben Saucy was like, hey man, let's go to Nipsey Hussle's store. And I was like, Nipsey Hussle got a store? Like, yeah, it's called the Marathon. And I was like, oh, for real? And then, without hesitation, I said, let's go. So, we got settled in our room and all that type of shit. So we jumped in a ride. We drove down there, the Crenshaw and Slauson, and shit. We parked, went up in there. You know what I'm saying? First we took pictures outside of the Brinks truck, the armored truck. So then we went in the store, and I like the whole layout, how it was built. Real nice looking store. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny. So Ben Saucy, I think he bought like two shirts. I bought like 2 shirts, and I bought 2 shirts and a lighter. And the funny part about it is, right, as we buying our stuff, Nipsey Hussle's father walks out, and I instantly knew that was who he was. I said, "You Nipsey Hussle's father, huh?" And he was like, "Yes." Talked to him for a couple of minutes, shook his hand. I tried to do an interview with him, but he said, they can't do interviews. They don't like to do interviews in the store and stuff. That was like a certain policy Nipsey had, so I respected it. But they told me I could take all the pictures that I wanted of the store, but they said they didn't like people to film inside the store. So I respected that. And Nipsey Hussle's father is a real nice man too, man. Real nice man. And I'd also met I guess some of the dudes that worked in the store. I guess they might have been related to him, or they might have been like some of the dudes from his hood. And that's a good part. Nipsey Hussle employed people like from his hood and stuff, man. And we don't see people talking about that. Because one thing we do is we quick to talk about how we need to get out of the hood and all that kind of stuff and distance yourself. And some people will say, well, that's why Nipsey Hussle ain't here no more, because he, but at the end of the day, take it however you want, Nipsey Hussle believed in what he was doing. And you know what I'm saying? He believed in what he was doing. Nipsey Hussle, you got to give him credit, where you can look at on one point where you can say, well, if he would have got out of the hood, then maybe he would still, look, he didn't. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate somebody who didn't just forget where he came from and just been like, he could have been like, you know what? Fuck Slauson and Crenshaw. Fuck the 60s. He could have been like all that shit, but no. He never distanced himself. He never, like, you know what I'm saying, tried to play the role like, I don't know who those dudes was. He still hung around his family. Not just his regular family, his Crip family. Because for the most part, those dudes loved him and they was loyal to him. You know, and when I heard Fred like talk to the dude that was like part of the Rolling 60s, he said something that resonated with me, because people got to understand. He said, you know, he said the Rolling 60s is big, and that's funny. Like, that's funny because it made me think about where I grew up at, because you know what I'm saying, you know, I grew up like in West Oakland and East Oakland, but I lived predominantly most of my life in East Oakland. Now I'm from a hood called the Dubs, and the Dubs is these streets that go from 23rd all the way up to, like, you know what I'm saying, 23rd Ave, or you can say East 19th. They go all the way up to like East 30th and stuff. So they call that area the Dubs. Just like I'm from a different section, so sometimes I may meet a dude that's like from the Dubs and be like, oh, okay, I'm from the, yeah, me too. And then you say, well, what part? Oh, okay. Because I don't know everybody that's from the Dubs. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a big area. They all have different turfs, different streets over there, so everybody don't know each other. And then one thing about me, I kept a small circle even when I was out there. I wasn't one of them dudes that wanted everybody to know who I was. I wasn't one of them dudes out there that was like trying to have name recognition in the streets. It's like when your name is, the bigger your name is, the bigger target you are by the opposition and by the cops. So I kept a relatively low profile. You know, people that knew me, they knew me. And that's just how I was. You know? And plus, I didn't go by my government name. So, you know, everybody had a street name. But I'm just breaking that down. When you just talk about, how dynamic the Nipsey Hussle thing was, this is a dude that made, Nipsey Hussle came out around 2009 or something. And for what he did in like, man, that's just real talk. What he did in like the shorts, man, I'm just telling you, man, what that man did in a 10-year span is amazing. And then you start looking at the old film of him, old footage of him. He knew what time it was back then. I'm talking about Nipsey Hussle had to be like maybe 18, 19. And if you look at the background, I seen him doing this interview at some kind of seminar. And if you look at the background, you see a young Kendrick Lamar. And Nipsey Hussle back then, age 18, 19, he say, man, I'm not about like making money, buying a whole bunch of jewelry and all that kind of stuff. He said, I'm about investing, buying property. And he lived it. He lived what he rapped about. He said, I'm about buying property, investing. And that's funny. You don't discover those type of videos till after the fact. Man, and you got to understand, YouTube was sort of like, it ain't what it was back then that it is now. Man, had only that video went global, and more rappers would have saw that video. It's amazing. This was like 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. He said it back then. He said that when you buy a whole bunch of cars and property, it lose value. And from what I heard from the people that knew Nipsey Hussle, they said Nipsey Hussle at best had like maybe 1 or 2 cars. They said Nipsey Hussle wasn't a dude that went buying Ferraris and all that kind of stuff, and like, you know, a lot of these dudes, but it's their money. So yeah, man, I just wanted to put that out there, man. I really respect Nipsey Hussle, man, because he really was a hustler. He had the right name. Like I said, it's amazing. And I'm gonna tell you right now, people, when they hear the stories about Nipsey Hussle, and that's why if you a dude that knew Nipsey Hussle, tell these stories, man. Tell these stories about Nipsey Hussle, man. Because the dude that did I ain't gonna say it was an interview, that called into Fred's show. And shout out to Fred. He spoke highly of Nipsey Hussle. And we gotta do that, man, for our black brothers, man. Because at the end of the day, they ain't no perfect person. You gotta take the good with the bad. And sometimes, it's an old saying, sometimes in order to do good, you gotta do a little bad. And sometimes when you think you doing good, you actually doing bad. This your boy Town Biz. I'm out.